Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year, he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. That was Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Buenos noches. I'm your host, Heather, and I'm glad you've decided to join me for a poetry reading. I have many beautiful selections in store for you. Before we begin, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude for the listeners I've slept with over the years. This project is my art, my baby, if you will, and each time someone listens, it makes my heart glow in a way I can't explain. It's magical. I'd also like to express my gratitude for your reviews. They help push the show up the chart. Also, a special thank you to Randy Parker from Franklin, Virginia, for continuing to be a sustaining subscriber. I feel so very blessed that you've chosen to support my little project. And now, on with the show. This next one is The Man in the Moon by Billy Collins. He used to frighten me in the nights of childhood. The wide adult face, enormous, stern, aloof. I could not imagine such loneliness, such coldness. But tonight, as I drive home over these hilly roads, I see him sinking behind stands of winter trees and rising again to show his familiar face. And when he comes into full view over open fields, he looks like a young man who has fallen in love with the dark earth. A pale bachelor, well-groomed and full of melancholy, his round mouth open as if he had just broken into song. I just love that one. The last lines really get me. He looks like a young man who has fallen in love with the dark earth. A pale bachelor, well-groomed and full of melancholy, his round mouth open as if he had just broken into song. It's evocative, as my best friend Mary would say. I can almost see the sparkle and hope in his eyes. To me, the moon in this poem is wearing his best shirt, and his hair is carefully combed back. I imagine he smells of aqua velva or Stetson. I see him as a young man, walking the night streets with a bounce in his step, and his smile illuminates the bustling city blocks. And even the street lights know to dim themselves, because it is no use competing. It's a beautiful poem. Billy Collins is one of my favorites. Now, what kind of bedtime podcast would this be if I didn't include Wynken, Blynken, and Not by Eugene Fields? Wynken, Blynken, and Nod one night sailed off in a wooden shoe, sailed on a river of crystal light into a sea of dew. Where are you going, and what do you wish? The old moon asked the three. We have come to fish for the herring fish that live in this beautiful sea. Nets of silver and gold have we, said Wynken, Blynken, and Nod. The old moon laughed and sang a song as they rocked in the wooden shoe, and the wind that sped them all night long ruffled the waves of dew. The little stars were the herring fish that lived in the beautiful sea. Now cast your nets wherever you wish. Never afraid are we. So cried the stars to the fishermen three, Wynken, Blynken, and Nod. All night long their nets they drew to the stars and the twinkling foam. Then down from the skies came the wooden shoe, bringing the fishermen home. 'Twas all so pretty a sail it seemed, as if it could not be. And some folk thought 'twas a dream they dreamed of sailing that beautiful sea. But I shall name you the fishermen three, Wynken, Blynken, and Nod. Wynken and Blynken are two little eyes, and Nod is a little head. And the wooden shoe that sailed the skies is a wee one's trundle bed. So shut your eyes while mother sings of wonderful sights that be, and you shall see the beautiful things as you rock in the misty sea, where the old shoe rocked the fishermen three, Wynken, Blynken, and Nod. sweet poem, a classic. Now here is a lesser-known poem by Eugene Fields, Japanese Lullaby. Sleep, little pigeon, and fold your wings, little blue pigeon with velvet eyes. Sleep to the singing of mother bird swinging, swinging the nest where her little one lies. Away out yonder, I see a star, silver star with a tinkling song. To the soft dew falling, I hear it calling, calling and tinkling the night along. In through the wind a moonbeam comes, little gold moonbeam with misty wings, all silently creeping. It asks, is he sleeping? Sleeping and dreaming while mother sings. Up from the sea there floats the sob of the waves that are breaking upon the shore, as though they were groaning in anguish and moaning, bemoaning the ship that shall come no more. But sleep, little pigeon, and fold your wings, little blue pigeon with mournful eyes. Am I not singing? See, I am swinging, swinging the nest where my darling lies. This next one is Quiet Girl by Langston Hughes. I would liken you to a night without stars, were it not for your eyes. I would liken you to a sleep without dreams, were it not for your songs. Beautiful. This next poem is a personal favorite of mine by E. Cummings. I have found what you are like. I have found what you are like. The rain, who feathers frightened fields with a superior dust of sleep, wields easily the pale club of the wind, and swirled justly souls of flowers strike the air in utterable coolness. Deeds of green, thrilling light, with thinned new fragile yellows, lurch and press in the woods, which stutter and sing. And the coolness of your smile is stirring up birds between my arms. But I should rather than anything have, almost when hugeness will shut quietly, almost your kiss. I love the line, stirring up birds between my arms. To me, he's talking about that fluttering feeling you get in your heart upon falling in love. I'd like to dedicate this next one to my kitten. This is Fog by Carl Sandburg. The fog comes on little cat feet. It sits looking over harbor and city on silent haunches, and then moves on. Few things are as satisfying as a good metaphor, and Sandburg nailed it. This next one is a pretty awesome poem, and if you hadn't heard it before, perhaps it'll become a favorite after tonight. The Invitation by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it, or fade it, or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own. If you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes, without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic. Remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you're telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what, or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself, and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. And that is one of my favorites. Maybe let's enter some Emily Dickinson. This one is called Hope is the Thing with Feathers. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that keeps so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet Never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Oh, that was beautiful. All right, let's do another by E. Cummings. This one is called Who Knows If the Moons. Who knows if the moon's a balloon coming out of a keen city in the sky, filled with pretty people. And if you and I should get into it, if they should take me and take you into their balloon, why then we'd go up higher with all the pretty people. Then the houses and steeples and clouds go sailing away and away, sailing into a keen city which nobody's ever visited, where always it's spring and everyone's in love, and flowers pick themselves. I like that. And flowers pick themselves. When was the last time you picked yourself? All right, our next one is short and sweet. It's another Annette Wynne poem. The Moon and I. We played a game, the moon and I. The moon was laughing in the sky. I spied her too and called aloud, but still she hid behind a cloud. Kind of makes you think, well, that you could write a poem. Do you think you could? Let's file that away for tomorrow. Maybe for some of you, it'll be your first shot. And if you do write a poem and you'd like to share it with me, you can find me on Facebook at Heather Arrington, or you can share it with me on Instagram at sleeping.with.heather. Or if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to share it in the comments section. This next one is Moon So Round and Yellow by Matthias Barr. Moon so round and yellow, looking from on high, how I love to see you shining in the sky. Oft and oft I wonder, when I see you there, how they get to light you hanging in the air, where you go at morning, when the night is past, and the sun comes peeping o'er the hills at last. Sometimes I will watch you slyly overhead, when you think I'm sleeping snugly in my bed. That was excellent. How are you feeling so far? Hold on just a moment. My tea is getting cold. Yeah, let me warm up some water. Can I get something for you? I'm having chamomile. All right. Then just sit there a moment and I'll be right back. You're welcome to help yourself to that blanket behind you. Yeah, that one. No, that one's the dog's blanket. The purple one. Yeah, get cozy. All right, let me see what else we have on the docket here. This next one is one of the most famous poems in the English language. The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet, knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Again, that was The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Isn't that a beautiful and thought-provoking poem? Let's slow things down with a beautiful and poignant love poem. To My Dear and Loving Husband by Anne Bradstreet. If ever two were one, then surely we. If ever man were loved by wife, then thee. If ever wife was happy in a man, compare with me, ye woman, if you can. I prize thy love more than whole mines of gold, or all the riches that the East doth hold. My love is such that rivers cannot quench, nor aught but love from thee give recompense. Thy love is such I can no way repay. The heavens reward thee manifold, I pray. Then while we live, in love let's preserve. Then when we live no more, we may live ever. Ah, the power of love. Now, let's get a little more contemplative with Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats. My heart aches, and a drowsy numbness pains my sense, as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute past, the lithe wards had sunk. 'Tis not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness, that thou light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beechen green and shadows numberless, singing of summer in full-throated ease. O for draught of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the depth-dwelled earth, tasting of flora and the country green, dance and provincial song and sunburnt mirth. O the breaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim, and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim, fade far away, dissolve, and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known, the weariness, the fever, the fret. Here, where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last gray hairs, where youth grows pale and spectra thin and dies, where but to think is it to be full of sorrow and leaden-eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. Away, away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his parts, but on the viewless wings of poesy, though the dull brain perplexes and retards, already with thee, tender in the night, and haply the queen moon is on her throne, clustered around all her starry face. But here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs, but in embalmed darkness guess each sweet wherewith the seasonable month endows, the grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild, white hawthorn, and the pastoral eglantine, fast fading violets covered up in leaves, and mid-May's eldest child, the coming musk rose full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. Darkling I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with easeful death, called him soft names in many a muse rhythm, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to cease upon the midnight with no pain, while art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such ecstasy. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain. To thy high requiem become a sod. Thou wouldst not born for death, immortal bird. No hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth, when, sick for home, she stood in tears amid the alien corn. The same that oft times hath charmed magic casements, opening on the foam of perilous seas in fury lands forlorn. Forlorn, the very word is like a bell to toll me back from thee to my soul's self. Adieu, the fancy cannot cheat so well as she is famed to do, deceiving elf. Adieu, adieu, thy plaintive anthem fades past the near meadows, over the still streams, up the hillside, and now 'tis buried deep in the next valley glades. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music. Do I wake or sleep? I love the imagery and emotion in that poem, though I tried to keep it as monotone as possible for sleep's sake. Let's move to a classic ode to the beauty of nature. Tintern Abbey by William Wordsworth. Lines composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey on revisiting the banks of the Wye during a tour. July 13th, 1978. 5 years have passed, 5 summers, with the length of 5 long winters, and again I hear these waters rolling from their mountain springs, with a soft inland murmur. Once again do I behold these steps and lofty cliffs that on a wild, secluded scene impress thoughts of more deep seclusion and connect the landscape with the quiet of the sky. The day is come when I again repose here under this dark sycamore. The view, these plots of cottage ground, these orchard tufts, which at this season, with their unripe fruits, are clad in one green hue, and lose themselves mid groves and copses. Once again I see these hardly hedgerows, little lines of sportive wood run wild, these pastoral farms, green to the very door. The wreaths of smoke sent up in silence from among the trees, with some uncertain notice, as might seem of fragrant dwellers in the houseless woods, or of some hermit's cave where by his fire the hermit sits lone. These beauteous forms, through a long absence, have not been to me as is a landscape to a blind man's eye, but oft in lonely rooms, and mid the din of towns and cities, I have owed to them in hours of weariness sensations sweet, felt in the blood and felt along the heart, and passing even into my purer mind with tranquil restoration, feeling too of unremembered pleasure, such, perhaps, as have no sight or trivial influence on the best portion of a good man's life. His little, nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and of love, nor less, I trust, to them I may have owned another gift of aspect more sublime, that blessed mood in which the burthen of the mystery, in which the heavy and the weary weight of all this unintelligible world is lightened, that serene and blessed mood in which the affections gently lead us on, until the breath of this corporeal frame and even the motion of our human blood almost suspended, we are laid asleep in body and become a living soul, while with an eye made quiet by the power of harmony and the deep power of joy, we see into the life of things. If this be but a vain belief, yet oh, how oft in darkness and amid the many shapes of joyless daylight, when the fretful stir, unprofitable, and the fever of the world have hung upon the beatings of my heart, how oft in spirit have I turned to thee, O Sullivan Wye, thou wanderer through the woods. How often has my spirit turned to thee, and now, with gleams of half-extinguished thought, with many recognitions dim and faint, and somewhat of sad perplexity, the picture of the mind revives again, while where I stand, not only with the sense of presence pleasure, but with the pleasing thoughts that in this moment there is life and food for future years. And so I dare to hope, though changed, no doubt, from what I was when first I came among these hills, when, like a roe, I bounded o'er the hills, by the sides of the deep river and the lonely streams, wherever nature led, more like a man flying from something that he dreads, than one who sought the thing he loved. For nature, then, the coarser pleasures of my boyish days, and their glad animal movements all gone by. To me was all in all. I cannot paint what then I was. The sounding cataract haunted me like a passion, the tall rock, the mountain, the deep and gloomy wood. Their colors and their forms were then to me an appetite, a feeling and a love that had no need of a remoter charm. By thought supplied, nor any interest unborrowed from the eye, that time is past, and all its aching joy are now no more, and all its dizzy raptures not for this faint eye, nor mourn nor murmur. Other gifts have followed, for such loss I would believe abundant recompense. For I have learned to look on nature not as in the hour of thoughtless youth, but hearing oftentimes the still sad music of humanity, nor harsh nor grating, though the ample power to chasten and subdue. And I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense of sublime, of something far more deeply infused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, and the round ocean, and the loving air, and the blue sky, and in the mind of man, emotion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thought, and rolls through all things. Therefore am I still a lover of the meadows and the woods and the mountains, and of all that we behold from this green earth, and all the mighty world of eye and ear, both what they half create and what perceive, well pleased to recognize in nature and the language of the sense, the anchor of my purest thoughts, the nurse, the guide, the guardian of my heart and soul, of all my mortal being. Nor perchance, if I were not thus taught, should I the more suffer my genial spirits to decay. For thou art with me here upon the banks of this fair river, thou, my dearest friend, my dear, and in thy voice I catch the language of my former heart, and read my former pleasures in the shooting lights of the wild eyes. Oh, yet a little while may I behold in thee what I once was. My dear, dear sister, and this prayer I make, knowing that nature never did betray the heart that loved her. 'Tis her privilege through all the years of this our life to lead from joy to joy, for she can so inform the mind that is within us, so impressive with quietness and beauty, and so feed with lofty thoughts that neither evil tongues, rash judgments, nor the sneers of selfish men, nor the greetings where no kindness is, nor all the dreary intercourse of daily life shall e'er prevail against us or disturb our cheerful faith, that all which we behold is full of blessing. Therefore, let the moon shine on thee in thy solitary walk, and let the misty mountain winds be free to blow against thee, and in after years, when these wild ecstasies shall be matured into a sober pleasure, when my mind shall be a mansion for all lovely forms, thy memory be a dwelling place for all sweet sounds and harmonies. Oh, and then if solitude or fear or pain or grief should be thy portion, with what healing thoughts of tender joy wilt thou remember me, and these my exhortations, nor perchance, if I should be where I no more can hear thy voice, nor catch from thy wild eyes these gleams of past experience, wilt thou then forget that on the banks of this delightful stream we stood together, and that I, so long a worshipper of nature, hither came unwearied in that service? Rather say with warmer love, oh, with that far deeper zeal of holier love, nor wilt thou then forget that after many wanderings, many years of absence, these steep woods and lofty cliffs, and this green pastoral landscape were to me more dear, both for themselves and for thy sake. That was Tintern Abbey by William Wordsworth. I hope you have enjoyed this selection of poetry. I'll be back with more soothing readings in the future. Good night and sweet dreams.